I was basically watching what's happening around our border actually, and it's totally different.
It is also interesting to see how technology has changed the modern warfare landscape as well. Because about 50 years ago, this was not a thing. And with AI and machine learning for that matter, we are able to train models which can identify profiles of certain aspects. For example, we can train the model for identifying aircrafts in that region of interest. Let's say we send a projectile which needs to target an aircraft,
Right.
but we don't know where the aircraft would be. Now, how does the munition know where to strike? The munition itself can maneuver in flight and make micro adjustments. So
Your product is basically helping in that actually, right?
yes, in theory, that is what Drishti.ai is. Now, how do we make sure there is tangible insights which can be obtained from such data? These could include radar cross sections of aircraft, which are written.
Right.
And which aircraft do these correspond to? AI is definitely a disruptor, but it is also an enabler.
Hi. Today I really wanted to welcome a young entrepreneur, right? Amartya Singh. This guy is something really, really unique, and seeing what is happening in and around geopolitics of India, we really want to ask what this youngster is basically doing. Hey, why don't you introduce yourself, Amartya Singh, right? Tell me a little bit about your journey towards entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And you're very young, so tell me something about it.
I'm so glad to have this opportunity and to speak my thoughts. Just an introduction about myself. I'm Amartya Singh. I have a defense company called Ahomlama
Wow.
Consultancy LLP. We got incorporated last year in June, and we've been working on certain defense projects since then. I always had the passion towards defense. My background too, my parents and my grandparents too were in the armed
Wow.
forces.
So grandparents and parents.
Absolutely.
both. Okay.
Yeah, they were in the Air Force. Subsequently, my dad was in the Air Force, and then defense was always in my head. So even after doing masters in computer science and spending time in the corporate world writing code, it never really. I think it gave me joy, but not as much as I get joy by
Right,
creating something
right.
of my own, especially in the, and that propelled me to dive into the defense aspects and seeing how ripe the Indian ecosystem is towards entrepreneurship and startups. I thought it's the best opportunity to get my hands dirty. So in a way, the stars did align, and I got the support I needed. I got so my parents, people who mean so much to me. They all, they just dove in. They're like, yeah, do it, and that gave me the support and the foundation to pursue this. And after about 10 months, it's been a revolutionary journey. There's been a lot of learning. By lot, I mean I don't think I could have learned as much, in 10 lifetimes if I was working in corporate. So how to set up a company, how to deal with the Indian ecosystems regarding startups, and especially startups around defense, because there has to be certain qualifications and certain certifications which allow a company to.
It is compliance thing, actually.
Absolutely. Compliance, MIL standard, all of that needs to be taken care of. Figuring all of that out, we're still in the process of, figuring things out, but I feel we're much better placed.
So that's fine, Amrita. I think this is good to know about your background, your history. You are from the defense family, right? And then, I understood that you have gone abroad.
Yeah.
And you studied, in fact, you worked, and you have come back.
Correct.
Whether it was an easy decision for a youngster.
So it is an interesting question. So I feel my mind was clear in retrospect.
Okay.
During the process, during the act of coming back, it was slightly convoluted because the kind of things you give up, especially in a country like the US. The lifestyle is kind of like it's a desirable thing, right? But I knew this is something which is temporary. It is not which
Right.
Dil ko santushti nahi milti hai.
Talk about what Drishti.ai is doing, what's his vision, and what's his vision with respect to when we really see, a defense, and probably Indian defense.
So Drishti.ai is one of the products of Ahomlama.
Okay, so it's a product of Ahomlama.
It's a product of Ahomlama, and it, as you mentioned, dealing with vision, right? What is the vision around it? In a way, it is to deal with the vision which we see. It is visual. It can be infrared. It can be any kind of electromagnetic spectrum we need information about. So it can identify objects. It can identify certain. I'll give you an example. So you have satellite imagery of the entire planet, right? Now let's say
Give an example with respect to what is happening actually in the
yeah.
border today.
Absolutely, absolutely. So a lot of the things which are happening in the border right now, today things are volatile in the
Yes,
border right
we
now.
know that, right.
A lot of it is to do with preemptively attacking the enemy, right? Now, how do you make sure you are attacking the right things? How do you make sure the missiles which you sent out are hitting the targets, right? For that, you need to understand geography. You need to understand what the terrain is. You need to understand what the location of impact is, right? For that, you need to have satellite imagery. That is like the bread and butter of of the modern warfare, if you will. Now, in order to understand what the image is, you need to understand what roads look like. You need to understand what buildings look like. You need to understand what uh, cars look like, right? You need to understand what aircrafts look like. Now, I'm sure for a human eye, it is relatively easy because that's how the brain works. But for a system to understand that, it is not as easy. It has to be trained to identify, what the borders look like of certain objects. And with AI and machine learning, for that matter, we are able to train models,
right,
which can identify certain profiles of certain aspects which it is trained on. For example, aircrafts. So we can train the model for identifying aircrafts in that region, the region of interest, to identify aircrafts. Let's say we send a projectile which needs to target an aircraft,
right,
but we don't know where the aircraft would be. Now you have imagery with you, a stream coming in,
right,
and it is of that location, and you see the aircraft is there. Now, how does the munition know where to strike?
Sure.
Because
Got it.
the munition itself can maneuver in flight and make micro adjustments so that it can.
Your product is basically helping in that, actually, right?
Yes, in theory, that is what Drishti.ai is.
Right.
It is used for object identification through streams, through. It also does analysis. For example, you have in a warlike scenario, there are plenty of. There's so much data being generated. We have no, information about that. But there's so much data being generated, but there is little to no analysis being done on that data. Now, how do we make sure there is, tangible insights which can be obtained from such data? These data could include radar cross sections of aircrafts, which are written.
Right, right.
And which aircrafts do these correspond to?
Right, right.
This is like one of those examples here. And it is also interesting to see how technology has changed the modern warfare landscape as well. Because about 50 years ago, this was not a thing. It was, you just go at it.
I think you're right. Day before, I was basically watching what's happening around our border, actually, and it's totally different, right?
Absolutely.
But what is your market, right? Who all you really wanted to, serve at this moment, right? With your products and services.
Absolutely. So our core people or core customers we want to serve is the defense, the Indian Army, Navy, and the Air Force. That is what so they can use our resources, whatever. We have DRDO as a customer right now.
Oh, very nice. So you are part of one.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. And DRDO, being a large organization, it has multiple, projects it deals with, in which we are helping them in one of them. And we do intend on going into the private sphere. That is, we want to expand there as well. And currently, I don't think any customer is out of the realm of Ahomlama.
Okay.
It is open for business.
That's nice, right? So good to know about, right? Your focus area. Good to know about your market, right? Now, I would like to ask specifically, because a lot of listeners of this particular podcast, they all are students, right? and they are thinking about what is the future of work specifically with respect to AI coming into picture. What do you want to suggest to them?
I would suggest get into business. Have something which, you know, learn your skill, learn your ABCs, learn your fundamentals
Learn your ABCs. Okay.
yeah, get your networks set. I think that is also very important. Once that is done, make sure you have a business you can rely on. Let's say
Right. So you want them to be a early entrepreneur. That's what
absolutely,
you want.
absolutely, and it could be anything. And it could just make sure there's something business which the person is involved in, because I feel with the advent of AI to such a high degree in the modern society, a lot of the work would be delegated to AI,
Right.
no matter which domain you're in.
Right.
From software engineers to marketers, all of this can be and is being delegated to AI nowadays. It is only a matter of time where there are prominent services like marketing using AI, which are similar to Google, which is synonymous to wide searches and whatnot. Everything internet is essentially Google. So AI is definitely a disruptor, but it is also an enabler in terms of enabling the single person, the individual, to think way beyond than let's say a cubicle in an office. So I think in that sense, yes, the youngsters, they should start thinking big.
I think that's a great thing, right? And specifically coming from someone like you, who had been in, US, who has worked with a large MNC. I think Amazon was
Yeah.
you were working with, and then you quit and you have come back, right? So I think that's something definitely going to motivate a lot of others. That's nice. What are some of the challenges still, right, to get in as an early entrepreneur and as a very young entrepreneur? And why don't you share some of those challenges and how you're trying to work on it actually?
Absolutely. I think number one challenge is to identify a good problem to solve.
Right. A
I
good
think
problem to solve.
yes,
Right.
like the
Meaningful
can be
problem,
a
I
meaningful problem to the person. If you have a problem which you think you can resolve and get a company out, or either make sure you're able to identify people who can help you out, because I think that is also huge.
So fine. I think what you are saying is actually right. The people, the youngsters need to stay more in the problem space, right? Rather only thinking about a solution space, and then also like to expand your network. Who can be your helper,
Absolutely.
supporter, family, friend,
Family, friends, colleagues
colleagues,
who you match with, who you have the same wavelength with.
right?
It is such a privilege and such a blessing to find people like these, because you can share, you can build things with them. So I think this is like one big aspect of starting early. Another issue, I think it will be resolved as we go ahead, is to do with setting up the company itself. Because setting up a company, we had a different timeline in mind, but setting up the company and the processes along with it, for let's say I didn't know anything about setting up a company.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Okay. As a youngster
as
came
a
up
youngster,
and
absolutely, I had absolutely no idea. And especially dealing with government is not as quick as, let's say,
yes,
in the corporate sphere.
yes.
So they take the time, and but sometimes startups don't have that kind of resources and time
Patience is
to.
also the thing, actually,
Absolutely.
right? Specifically, you are into defense tech, space tech, satellite tech, or what more, right? And you are into deep tech,
Yeah.
which a lot of startups are not, right? And I think I'm so happy that people like you are so courageous, and that's one of the reason I do really feel that India is definitely in right hands, Amrutya, right? So with this, I would like you to have one message, because I think you have gone through a whole journey. What do you want to say to today's parents? Right? You just now in your discussion did mention couple of times about your family, right? What do you want to say to your parents, right? These parents now, yeah.
I feel being a parent is extremely challenging, and kudos to the
I am.
parents who, you know, build their child up, and incredibly beautiful process. Uh, However, it is important to know your child. It is important to not compel them into doing things which they might not want to do.
Right.
So certainly make sure they know why they want to do it, because I think knowing the why is very important. Again, this is quoting Viktor Frankl. If you know your why, you can deal with almost anything.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
So
and that's not where we go mostly.
Absolutely. So, and also believe in your child. Have 100% belief that your child is going to do wonders.
Know the why of your child, and then have a belief in the child is something. What is your message? And that's what your parents did with you. And that's why you are here sitting today and having Drishti.ai as a product of
Ahomlama.
Thank you very much with this, right? I would wish to have much more discussions, and I'll definitely will have more discussions with you, Amartya. Best wishes, and whatever you are doing for this whole segment, our country, it is really, really thankful to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vikas. Thank you so much.